Virgin Islands. She is a member of multiple committees, including Ways and Means. She did also serve as an impeachment manager for the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Representative Plaskett, it's good to see you. Look, you and I have talked a lot, and you're a straight shooter about this kind of stuff. I'll remind people it's January. The election's in November. That's 50,000 news cycles away. But these numbers this morning are alarming, given the work that you and others have done to point out how much our democracy may be in peril right now. Not enough Americans are finding that resonates with them.
Well, I'm hopeful that Americans are still going to wake up to what's really going on. And I think the January 6th Commission, as more and more information rolls out. And remember, Ali, that we still have the hearings that this committee is going to have in public, and I'm hopeful during prime time, which will allow everyday Americans to see the absolute attempted coup of our democracy by Donald Trump and his minions who worked with him in the White House and outside of the White House. And I think that's really going to be eye-openers for Americans with the level of detail, connecting the dots, as you said earlier, that is going to be done, the voluminous amount of information and witnesses who have come forward already. We know that over 700 individuals have spoken to the committee, and many more are still to come.
What is the risk to the country if these polls that we have bear out and Democrats are removed from the majority in Congress and this attempt to get to the bottom of January 6th literally evaporates?
Our republic will be in grave danger, is exactly what will happen, because we have seen, unfortunately, that many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are simply concerned with keeping their seats, simply concerned with retaining power, and not willing to expand the electorate, to expand the number of individuals who are able to vote in our democracy, that they are more concerned with keeping a white minority. I'll speak it out loud, that thing that we all know is going on internally within the GOP. Listen, I heard Tim Scott speak during the voting rights. And I usually never, ever say anything against the good senator from South Carolina. But for him to say that because he is in the Senate, that therefore the Voting Rights Act is not necessary, is the most ludicrous thing I could hear out of his mouth. Who told him that Black people voted for him in the first place? Who told him that the reason he is there is because others were not suppressed from being able to vote?
But in fact, the Tim Scott problem is America's problem right now, right? Because if I, in New York or Philadelphia, do not have a problem voting, do not have a problem registering to vote, do not have a problem standing in a line that's not very long, do not face voter intimidation, I may not think democracy itself is at risk. And this seems to be a problem writ large, according to this polling. And three-quarters of this country thinks that this voting rights thing is a bit of an abstraction. It's not actually a real threat.
Well, in that respect, I recall in the 1960s, during the immense civil rights movement that went on in this country, the thing that brought it alive to everyday Americans was seeing those grassroots organizations fighting for their rights. And everyday Americans, those in the North, in the Midwest, in the West, who were not feeling it every day in a very open way, to see on live television what other Americans had to go through. The dogs, the fire hoses, the poured coffee on them as they sat at lunch counters. And I believe it will be those grassroots organizations and those of us who are in the legislature, in state as well as federal, bringing to light the everyday examples of what this means in our country. And I have to believe that the majority of Americans will rise up in the same way they did after the killing of George Floyd, that everyday Americans around this country will rise up and will say, this cannot stand.
Representative, I want to ask you about, after Liz Cheney decided to join the committee and speak out against Donald Trump, she was censured by her party. She was removed by the Wisconsin Republican Party. Some people are looking at alarm at what the Arizona Democratic Party has done to Kyrsten Sinema. Kyrsten Sinema, they may not agree with her positions on stuff, and that's why you can primary people, but they have censured her for her decision not to vote against the filibuster. That's the first time in a while we've seen the Democratic Party do something that looks like the Republican Party did. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm not going to speak about what the Arizona Democrats believe is in the best interest of Arizona. And I do believe, like Senator Sinema has said, that we all should be able to agreeably disagree. But I think that there are fundamental tenets of the Democratic Party that one needs to uphold. And if an individual who wants to be part of the Democratic Party does not believe that every American who is eligible should have the right to vote, and that right to vote should be protected, and is more concerned about an archaic and ever-evolving filibuster and the trappings of the Senate, more so than voting, then I believe that there are things that need to be done to stop that individual. I believe that a censure is a way of calling attention to a person being out of step with their party. And, I think that Kristen Sinema needs to look as to what is more important to her, our American democracy or the procedures of the Senate.
Representative Stacey Plaskett, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for taking time to join us this morning. Democratic Representative Stacey Plaskett of the United States Virgin